As early history. A young guy called Stanley was employed by Goodman Lieber, who would later produce a number of the most well-recognized Marvel characters. No, right now, of course, you may be familiar with him as Stanley Thay. Several teams were introduced in the 1960s, as well as unique superheroes and Thay, the protagonists and antagonists that would describe the current state of the business. For instance, the Fantastic Four and the whole Spider-Man Ultron Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, Galactus, Doctor Doom, Iron Man, and the X-Men, amid a plethora of more to come. Over the years, Marvel saw both ups and struggled to survive, partly because of a very erratic market while simultaneously battling against its steadfast foe DC. Turn-of-the-century comics Marvel successfully with their live-action movies like Blade that have been adapted. Hulk, Spider-Man, and the X-Men would act as the first proponents of the enormous, popular and successful superhero film. Current market in 2009. Marvel Entertainments, the company's parent. The Walt Disney Company purchased Marvel Comics Disney Corporation, and by taking the effort to start Thay, superheroes from the Marvel Cinematic Universe are more well-liked than ever before. Marvel got so near, yet ultimately fell short to come into being. As you can see, Martin Goodman embarked on his traveling to Europe for a honeymoon when it was now time to. Goodman wanted to go to the US, enthralling and magnificent Hindenburg. Unfortunately, since he had to wait to acquire an airship, he was unable to get 2 tickets adjacent places in a row. The pair then chose to return via airplane. If there had been 2 seats available, they probably would have died in Thay, the now famous Hindenburg fire catastrophe in the 1979 Bagadas Dave comic. Cockrum chose to leave his position at. While doing so, he also left a explanation of resignation in letter. Wanted to exit the business at this time. At around the same time as the Iron Man comic. Issue 127 of it was published. Tony Edwin Jarvis, Stark's butler, makes a choice to leave his work. Jarvis submits a letter of resignation as. However, it doesn't really make sense as it seems that Marvel made the decision. The resignation letter sent by. The only change in the comic is Cockrum, because he substituted the term Marvel after Avengers 3 issues. A complicated letter was clarified as a. However, others believe it was more of a. Nobody can be sure whether it was a planned joke. How the letter came to be included in the comic. Possibly one of the most popular X-Men members, if not one of Marvel's most well-liked characters. Generally, when he first started, they wanted referring to him as the Voltaren or Thay Badger. Thankfully, they went with the first option. Look at this, it's so adorable. After they completed the task, Thay Wolverine was originally intended to be Wolverine the mutant he is. This is even proposed in the X-Men comic issue. When a scientist cites number 98, the fact that Wolverine differs from Thay, even consider the remainder of the mutations look to be human, which is another oddity. Is that Marvel initially had a regulation Wolverine was not allowed to break arm hair visible when wearing a costume, but when not dressed as a costume, it was. Superman does kind of exist in Thay. In the Marvel universe, at least, his alternative self-expression Clark Kent. In a number of Marvel Comics publications. Over time, he has gained a reputation as even a supporting figure with a few lines here and there, but this both precisely canon and precisely. In this instance, Superman Clark Kent is only a regular news reporter, and there are only as a joke and type of cameo, it is included. It wasn't meant to be stolen. Something that I have always, following a heroic fight, pondered about. Involving some fictitious setting. A city someplace that's accountable for removing the debris left by these wars. Often leave behind hints that Marvel has truly made an effort to respond to a concern with the company. Often referred to as damage control. Damage control is a significant business that employs cutting-edge engineering technology to fix anything, including whole city in a single trip to the Avengers' home. Extremely little time. As an example, they were in charge of restoring the international war known as York of the Front. It's a significant suspension of Thay skepticism, but well, it's better at least than just because Marvel's 1984 magic was flourishing greatly. They had almost 70% of the market, including DC Comics at roughly 20 in As a matter of fact, DC Comics financial difficulties, so in February of in that year, the CEO of DC Comics, Warner Communications, a business, referred to Thay. Because he became president of, giving them all publication rights. Characters from DC Comics ultimately they. A deal was made, and Marvel was really want to purchase DC Comics along with all of its Superman-like characters. Batman, The Flash, and other factors are what. This was avoided because it would have occurred had entirely eliminated Marvel controlling the market with a astonishing 90% of the market, indicating that Marvel may accomplish without any restraint of any kind. Marvel and DC are the two current more parity with competing publishers such as Dark Horse and Image Comics. Michael Jackson had a devoted following. He has a vast collection of comic books. Unattainable comic. One of his favorite things is collecting. Spider-Man appeared in the 1990s. Marvel was considering creating a Spider-Man live-action film, and when, after learning about it, Michael Jackson desired to be brought about as the protagonist, Peter Parker wanted to do something himself, so desperately that he tried to actually purchase Avengers Comics. Want to create and star in this movie. I believe we are all attractive. Happy that this didn't occur. In addition to the more typical characteristics, they have their own films, TV programs, and the Marvel offers a lot of very good stuff. Additionally, strange and odd personalities. The Pet Avengers are just a few examples. Is precisely what their voice sounds like. If they were animals, threats. Secondly, there is Spider-Ham, who is, if Spider-Man were a pig and his true identity. Peter Parker is not the name, but the phone ranger who is Peter Parker. Knowledgeable about fixing phone lines and phones. Matador, a human bird brain, who practically leapfrogs a matador. Clad is a frog, and then there's AI, who has the power to transform, shout themselves into ice cream, which is why a number of the X-Men tales adhere to character battle for acceptance as typical individuals as seen by society. Oddities of nature rather than people, which makes how Marvel spent money rather comical. Years attempting to prove that X-Men, it is inappropriate to regard figurines as human. They did it to get around a certain tax law. Those expenses would have been far higher. Essentially, the rule is that figures that resemble people should be dolls, while the non-human, sorry, but characters are considered toys. Even your creator, Xavier and company, believes you are not fully human. Okay.